All right, this is my first shots with the MR920. So far, I'm not a fan of the trigger. I've dry fired it quite a bit. It's not, the trigger's just not there. But I'm not discounting the gun at all. I haven't even shot it yet. Let's put 15 rounds through it, see how she does. Well, it ran a whole mag, so I'm gonna shoot back to back. I'm gonna grab the 19, do the exact same thing, just to see if I feel a difference between the two guns. All right, I got 15 rounds loaded up, another mag pull, 15 round mag. We're gonna shoot this through the Gen 5 Glock 19. I'm going to shoot a different spot. I'm going to shoot the head instead of the body on this one. Go down here and take a look. All right, that was my group with the Shadow Systems. That's my group with the Glock. The group is smaller with the Glock. Both sights are off. I haven't shot my 19 in quite a while. It's shooting a little low. That was shooting right. So looks like I need to adjust both of them. Yeah, I was trying to hit the mag release, or slide release over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Gen 5 has ruined me. God damn, they're biting. Flies are bad. Mm-hmm. What's going on, you crazy gun nuts? Today we're taking a look at the Shadow Systems MR920. We're going to compare it to a Glock 19 Gen 5. I recently acquired the Shadow Systems in a trade. It came with a few mags, some mag extensions, and a Holosun 507C mounted to it. And it is definitely a gun. It's definitely a Glock clone. It's not better than a Glock. It's got some better attributes that a Glock doesn't have. Other than that, though, not disappointed, not super happy with it, but we'll talk about it. Right now, I've got the optic off of it because I had it out shooting it today. I think we put like 150 rounds through it. Wasn't a whole lot, but ended up shooting my target stand, the uprights on it. And I'm like, dude, am I shooting that freaking bad today? Well, it wasn't me. The optic was loose. It almost fell off. So I went ahead and took it off to make sure that it's got proper Loctite and shit in it. And also wanted to show why the Shadow Systems mount, the way they got this cut, is better than a Glock. I am impressed with Shadow Systems cut that they have here. And that's one of the few things that I think this has over a Glock. You can either use like the RMR style or Holosun mount, or you can use a doctor mount, which uses your most of your Vortex and your Crimson Trace also. Try to get it to focus. You can see that it's got 2 sets of holes there. It will fit your RMR cut, and it will also fit your Doctor cut, which is like your Vortex and your Crimson Trace and some other ones. But you can also see right there, they cut down so far enough into it. Let's try to get that focus real good. They cut far enough into it, you can see the extractor spring. And it does co-witness with standard height sights very, very well. It does feel well built. It's a Glock clone. It's considered a Gucci Glock clone. The rest of the gun is what it is. It's decent. It's got some things I also like better than Glock, but still doesn't kill a Glock. And let's talk about that right now. I don't think there's a gun out there that is a Glock killer. Glock has a specific purpose. It is an affordable handgun that does its job very, very well. They don't have very many bells and whistles that come from those. They come with those from the factory. But there's a lot of things they do, and they do well. I said do. Now I've got my Gen 5 19 right here. It's not loaded. I've still got a mag in it from being at the range. But you can see it's unloaded. Not chambered. I have the exact same setup. This has the only thing different are the sights. I do have I got suppressor height sights on this because I have to run a plate to co-witness with my iron sights. But I have the Holosun 507C. Same one that was recently on the Shadow Systems until it almost fell off. And the TLR1HL, which here's the frame for it. I mean, they look the same. Now the MR920 is based on, from what I can see, the Gen 4 Glock. The mag release is interchangeable from side to side for left or right handed use. And I do like the mag release a little bit better on the Shadow Systems. It's a little easier to manipulate. It seems like, I'm not sure if it sticks out farther. It looks like it might stick out a little bit farther than the standard 19 Gen 5. It does not have an ambi slide catch on it. It is only on one side. And it also comes with back straps, just like the Glock has, but this has a slimmer grip on it than even the standard Glock has, because this one here is flat. It reminds me a lot of the Vertex grip on the Beretta, like M9A4, and it's a little bit slimmer in the hand. These also come from the factory with a mag well, and I also failed to mention that this is the Elite model, so it's got the few fancy cuts that the other one doesn't have, and it's also got some serrations in the top of the gun if you want to do press checks or whatnot. I don't believe in press checks. I just pull the trigger. If it goes off, it goes off. I mean, seriously, what's an ND among friends, you know? This also comes with a fancy barrel. It's some, I think, tin coated. I'm not sure what color they call it. It looks like a old penny, kind of. And it's got some spirals on it. Looks like a barbershop pole. And to me, it didn't seem like it was any more accurate than a Glock, especially with the optic loose. Now, I do not plan on taking this back out and shooting it anymore. I'm just not super happy with it. It's not that it's a bad gun. It seems like a very well-built gun. It's just not for me. I prefer my Glock. The Shadow Systems does come with, I believe these look like Ameriglow sights. Yes, they are. They're Ameriglow sights. It has a blacked out rear sight and like a yellowish green front night sight. You can see it's not loaded, not chambered. Now the trigger on this is what got me the most, because this is supposed to be an upgraded Glock. It's supposed to have, it's supposed to be everything that a Glock is not. And this trigger is not great. It's like, I've owned a Canic, I've shot other Canics. Those triggers are phenomenal. I don't trust Canics. That's, you know, I had reliability issues, the one I had, and that kind of burned me. But for this to be a Glock killer is not there, dude. The trigger is not that great. The trigger pull is definitely better on the Gen 5 stock Glock after you put a few rounds through it, as opposed to this. This one, like I say, it's a used gun when I got it. The trigger is not great at all. It's the trigger pull gauge was all over the place. I was getting readings anywhere from 5.5 to 7 pounds. Very inconsistent. Every trigger pull is a little bit different. Trigger pull on my Glock 19, this Gen 5. is extremely consistent. This one here breaks at like 5 pounds every single time. It's not 5.5 like most Glocks. This one here breaks at 5. Not sure why, but it's a lot smoother trigger than what the Shadow Systems has. For the increase in price of what the Shadow Systems cost, I would expect the trigger to be something to write home about, and this one is definitely not a trigger to write home about. And I know you can go out, you can buy an aftermarket trigger to put in this, but why would I put an aftermarket trigger in a gun that's already aftermarket? It should come with a better trigger than what a Glock comes with, and it definitely does not. Another thing I don't like about this is when I was dry firing it, I was watching the sights would move after I pulled the trigger, and it's kind of probably a stupid gripe. Let me see if I can even get this on camera. But as you pull the trigger, watch where the slide meets up to the frame. Like it moves. Watch it. See how it pulls down? To me, just doesn't. And a Glock has a little bit of movement like that. And it's not just me turning the gun on the camera. It's actually, you can see it moving up and down. So it makes dry fire really weird, because after I pull the trigger, my red dot jumps. And it's because of you'll see, the slide pulls down and goes back up. So it's just weird to dry fire. Check it again, because I never trust myself. You can see the Glock does it a little bit as well, but we'll go ahead and break the trigger on it. And it doesn't jump like the Shadow Systems does, which I'm not sure if it's a tolerance issue with this or if they're all made that way. Another thing I really don't care for is if you look on the front there, it has a screw for the recoil assembly. The Glock recoil assembly has a clip that holds it together. I like that way better. It seems like it would just be more robust and more reliable than a screw in the front. The screw could be lost. Even if the screw does come out, it's not going to shoot out of it. But it'll just make it that much harder to put back together, because you got to stuff the spring in there and then the recoil rod and then put it back together. Another thing I like about this, as opposed to Glock, is the frame is thinner this way. You can see that it's the same width basically as the slide is. Whereas like with a Glock, it hangs out over the slide on the sides, which isn't a big deal, because I usually rest my thumb right there, like right above the light when I shoot. So it gives me a place to rest my thumb. This, my thumb still goes in the same spot, but there's some grip texture there that is kind of nice to set my thumb on also. And there's a bit of a ledge, just not as pronounced as what the Glock has. Like I say, I don't hate this gun at all. It's a great gun. One thing that really weirds me out, though, I just noticed, I saw it the other day, is this humongous beaver tail on that. Look at that shit. I mean, that looks like a diving board, man. Like, this shit looks like a pry bar. Looks like you could open a can with it. That sticks out far enough that it looks like something out of a lockpick set. Now, the undercut on this is pretty dope. It does come up a lot farther than the Glock does, and it's undercut here, which allows me to get a pretty good purchase on it, especially with that removable mag well that this has. You can take it off, you can run with or without. But I do get a really good purchase on the gun. It does feel really good in my hand. And it doesn't really, other than the trigger, it doesn't shoot any different than a Glock. Like, the recoil, to me, was not, there was enough of a difference to even talk about. But this is designed to be an upgraded Glock. A lot of people consider them a Gucci Glock. It's not a Zev. It's definitely not in that ballpark. But for what these cost, I was expecting a lot more out of it than the performance that we did get out of it. Like I say, that trigger is what really threw me off. And then there's a few other little things about it that kind of bug me. But the trigger is the biggest part about this that just, I can't deal with it. For the upgrade in cost, I would just buy a stock Glock and put the Glock performance trigger in it, or put a Timney trigger in it. And I'm not going to lie and tell you that I change triggers in my Glocks, because I don't. Every Glock I own has a stock trigger in it. I don't change anything on the internals of my Glocks. They all shoot well. They all shoot exactly the same. The trigger pulls are exactly the same. And to me, the Shadow Systems trigger was just, it just wasn't there. But the takedown's the same on it. And I know a lot of people like these. I've seen that even police departments are being issued these things. Now, I honestly don't see the Shadow Systems being more reliable than a Glock. I mean, Glocks have been tested for years and years and years. That's why so many militaries and police use them, because they're a great gun. I got a PSA dagger. The PSA dagger is just, it's an entry-level gun. The Glock's an entry-level gun, but I still carry them because they're good enough for what I need them for. Look, I don't want to go out and buy a Staccato and spend $3,500 on it and have to use it in self-defense and you lose your gun, which is another thing about the Shadow Systems. They do have a pretty decent warranty that if you use your gun in self-defense after you were proven not guilty, that you did use the gun in self-defense and it was not, that the shooting was justified, Shadow Systems will give you another gun. It's part of their warranty. That is a really, really cool thing. I think these have a lifetime warranty on them too. So to me, that is better than a Glock warranty, because Glock warranties are just for, you know, a couple years of that. Now, I also like the grip texture on this as well. I mean, there's a lot of things I like about this and don't like about it. But for the money, you could buy a Glock 19 and do the same things to it and still be less than what this cost. Mine is the MOS model. If I had to go back and do it again, I would have just bought the regular Glock 19 and had the slide cut, because with the MOS you got to run a plate, and I'm not a big fan of running plates, but it is what it is, and that's what I've got, and that's what I'm running. But let me know what you think about the Shadow Systems as opposed to a Glock 19, because I mean, the Shadow Systems is not even in the same ballpark as the PSA dagger, but they are both Glock clones. When something is good enough that is cloned by other manufacturers, that tells you a lot about the company that originated the product. The Glock is just it's a mainstay, and everybody's trying to build a Glock killer. You're not going to build a Glock killer, because everything you do is still trying to defeat another company and try to be better than they are. And I do understand trying to be better, but to charge $1,100 for one of these with an optic, man, I don't see it. I don't see it. Let me know what you guys think about these. Do you think that the Shadow Systems is a Glock killer? I definitely do not think it's a Glock killer. I don't hate it. I do like it. Like I say, I don't like it enough to probably keep it. Let me know what you guys think about the two guns, because I mean, I know a lot of people have both. Me, I'm going to stick with my Glock because it's the pinnacle of self-defense weapon. But as always, thanks for watching, stay safe, and let's take back our Second Amendment.